Aric Whiteley, welcome to Paid Search NYC podcast in person.
Thank you for having me. It's been a little bit of a journey to get here, but we're here now on a nice hot New York day.
Indeed, yeah, the heart of Soho in a lovely studio, much better than my ring light and Mac camera. And we also have a sound engineer as well. Thank you, Jordan. So very excited. You are the co-founder of an agency in Connecticut called Lockhern Digital, a search everywhere agency focusing on PPC, SEO, AI search. You set that business up in February 2020. Interesting time. We're going to talk about that. So you're coming up on 5.5 years. Prior to that, you spent 10 years in big agency, Crealytics, Horizon. You're an associate director in search. You're a paid search consultant. I guess where I want to start is talk us through the 6 months leading up to founding Lockhern. Specifically, what was the series of events or like decision process that led you to decide to start your own agency?
Yeah, sure. I think when I was at Horizon Media, I got to meet a ton of people. And this was my second job out of college, but my first job in New York City. And just by being a part of a 2,500 person operation, I got to meet a lot of people. One day I was talking to one of my colleagues and he had asked me, do I consult moonlighting, like outside of work hours? And I hadn't really thought of it. And he put that little bug in my ear. He's like, well, I do that and I make a little extra money on the side and kind of network. And it's like, all right, maybe I'll try that. So he started introducing me to some more people. One thing led to another. And then, in between the cracks of my day to day, I started, picking up some consulting jobs and working for some actually pretty big brands and managing some pretty large budgets outside of my 9 to 5. And I think that's what, like, within that moment, I got hooked because all of a sudden there was no ceiling.
Yeah.
Agency life, very structured. Freelancing, for lack of a better term, was unstructured. And I think I've always kind of thrived in unstructured environments.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I met my now wife. We moved into an apartment in Stamford, Connecticut. I was doing a commute, and the commute was actually getting quite a bit taxing. And my wife, who was doing really well at her company, decided she wanted to go back to school. I, at that time, also decided I wanted to just go freelance and, kind of start my own independent contracting. So at the ripe age of 30, unengaged, just girlfriend, boyfriend, we moved in to her parents' house, their childhood home, and essentially lived in the basement. And that was in 2019, right as we started to see a pickup of COVID, right? And that short stay ended up being like a year and a half. So I jumped in and just started really focused on growing the business, right? And I ended up, doing way more revenue and earned income than I did at my W-2, which became very clear to me. I had to do this because the potential, the upside was just so vast. So that's what I did, and just subsequently, a former Horizonite, Corey Body, co-founder of Lockhern Digital, also did something somewhat similar, and he was reaching out to me and said, "Hey, I'm reaching out to some people I knew, respected, and want to work with. I've got this thing going on." And a very long story short, we ended up saying, "Hey, listen, you've got this freelance practice. I've got this freelance practice. Like, what if we just combined it into one, work together, and build an agency?" And 6 years later, here we are.
Amazing. Love that. You talked there a little bit about COVID. Actually, before I go into that, it sounds like you were having a good amount of success before you even left Horizon, fair to say. What was it like making the jump and actually doing your own thing? Was it at that point just so obvious, and it was more just like there's just so much more opportunity, like low risk, or was there still some risk of like moving away from a guaranteed salary?
Always risk. I'm an all-in type of guy. And we redesigned our life. We went to zero
Mm.
in order to accomplish this. My wife went back to school. She became a nurse. I started this business, and for me, it was like I only saw upside. I knew I was gonna ask her to marry me, and I knew that that meant kids. So I'm future planning here as well. And I'm like, I know that if I don't do this right now, it was about 20, 29, 30, somewhere in that neighborhood. If I don't do this right now, I know it will make it 100 times harder to start when we are married, we have kids, we have a
Yeah.
house. And subsequently, I have all those things now, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to jump out now. Like I couldn't possibly do that. I don't know if I would have what it takes. So I luckily somehow had the courage to just say, I'm doing this now because I know I can always go back.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. Like when you've established so much experience in your career, 10 years, all these agencies, they're still going to be there. There's the risk to leaving is reduced because you have got that option to go back. But to your point, just going back on the point around seeing it as something that if you're going to do it, now's the time. It sounds like everything was right. Like almost you probably had like your inner core just screaming at you like, this is something I have to do, to the point where it's like, well, no, I just have to do it now. Like is that a fair way to sort of describe it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a moment in time, I can't tell you exactly what day, but I woke up and I've told my wife this, that my entire like next 5 years were clear. I had complete clarity and I wasn't scared of anything. Like we lived in a very nice apartment in Stanford, ocean side, like just amazing. And I gave it all without hesitation because I knew that that was just one piece and it was great that I got there. But I knew that if I went from that high rise to the basement, I knew that there would be a lot more upside down the road. And, I don't know if I've hit that yet by any means, but the amount of like, I think control, so to speak, yes and no, there's pros and cons to control, but the feeling that I have that I can almost create my own destiny, create my own success is not worth a salary that someone else gives me right now. I've bought in. Not to say I won't ever go back or anything like that, but for right now, it's just there's no other option than just to keep going forward.
Yeah. The way that came about, was it something that just formed over time and was a mix of your experience and who you are as a person? Or was there anybody that kind of told you, here's how to do it? Especially like the going to zero and having that clarity of like next 5 years. Is that something that just came to you through the 10 years that, and the person you are? Or did someone tell you some of that?
It's starting to feel like a therapy
I
session.
know. So
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm certain your experiences, the people you associate with, the things that you listen to, your mentors, and I have a lot of them, a lot of people I listen to.
mm,
I don't know if anyone explicitly said you have to do this now. There was nobody like, on the sidelines saying, "Go, do it." To like that level, but I think indirectly I saw what other people are doing
mm,
and I could take a little piece here, take a little piece there. And I'm a textbook like methodical thinker. Everything, I'm very type A. And I think once I came to the full realization of exactly what I was going to do, and I accepted the fact that I was going to like zero, there was no other decision. It was like it released everything for me. I was like, I'm totally free of anyone's, what people are thinking, right? What
mhm.
everything. I just wanted to just go and I just wanted to start, and that was my only goal, and that's what we did.
Amazing.
Yeah.
First 6 months or first year, how much of that feeling continued? Like, how much did your expectation or what you wanted it to be, how much of that matched reality?
Sure. I can give you the truth. I can give you the tea here. Um, the first, I'd say like, so there was two distinct kind of lines of delineation. One was when I was a freelancer and I was doing my own thing. And then the second one was when we actually started Lockhern. Totally different. Right. And that changed pretty quickly in a good way because we headed into, as you mentioned, 2020 COVID. My background, really heavy e-commerce exploded. Our first year of revenue was insane. Our growth was insane. We did more money than I ever thought possible, like within the first year. And frankly, we thought we were going to be rich, like immediately. Corey always says a funny thing, and hopefully I don't butcher it. He goes, throughout the volatility of owning any business, but agency owners as well, is like some days you're cleaning the yacht and other days you think you're buying a yacht. And that's kind of well said, because it does feel like that from time to time. So the first 6 months, I actually think for us were euphoric. I think that's exactly the right word. I felt like there was nothing we could do wrong, and everything that we did was correct. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. Insert some dramatic music.
Yes.
But no, I think the first 6 months was really, really, really good, followed by a really terrible next few years.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah.
Not to turn this too much into a therapy session, but tell us about those years. Why were they?
Sure. Okay. Really good piece of advice. Clip this. If you're thinking about freelancing, definitely do it. If you're thinking about starting an agency, they're completely two different skill sets. Just because you're a good media buyer or you're good with clients does not make you a good business owner. And I'm speaking as a not good business owner here. The learning curve from understanding how to structurally organize an agency, how to say no, how to build a team, how to build processes, all within a very short time frame, and then hire the right talent to execute on that, was exponentially harder, and is currently, presently, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And you have to fight for every day. And not to mention, that's just starting the business, let alone getting clients, sales, dealing with tough clients, taking on clients you shouldn't, having a good balance of revenue. One client leaves, that's a big majority of margin. That takes a hit. It's exactly the growing pains that we had. We grew super fast, like I said. We hired a team of like 8 full-time employees. That's a lot of payroll. We had a lot of big clients, and a lot of those we couldn't deliver on because we just weren't there yet. And so for us, what turned into this very hot honeymoon romance of starting a business where why doesn't everybody do this, turned very much into how do I get out of this? But we didn't. Stayed strong for the kids.
Nice. Would you do it all over again?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. No question. In fact, I think I do it. I think it's cyclical. I think it comes back. I think there's peaks and valleys to everything, and I'm ready for the downside as much as I'm ready for the upside.
Nice. Okay. That feels like a nice ending to that section. Let's talk about search engine land. So on top of Lockhern, running that business and all the things you've just talked about, you also write for search engine land, PPC publication. And you wrote an article not too long ago called the 7 Power Moves to Accelerate Your PPC Career. Let's talk about what those 7 were and break those down, starting off with the first one, which I think was create visibility. So talk us through that and break that down for us.
Certainly. Can I interject on one thing?
Yeah, sure.
The reason that we're here today is because of a very interesting situation, right? And I know this doesn't hit as hard for you, but it really hits hard for me. So I'm just going to take a second to say, a little bit of appreciation, because I have been writing for quite some time for Search Engine Land. That's obviously like in itself very prestige to me. But as I was scrolling through LinkedIn one random day, I saw you posted a screenshot of the article that I wrote, and I was just blown away. It was complete in the wild. I wasn't tagged in it. There was no real reason for me to even know that you posted that, but just so happened that either we were connected or I was connected to somebody who interacted with it. I happened to see that. And for me, that was a very big milestone. I felt like maybe that moment, okay, people care about what I have to say. And especially because thematically, it's kind of off the beaten path of what you typically like write about. Mm-hmm. It's not a common topic that people really discuss, which I'm really excited to talk about. So thank you, first of all. That's amazing.
It was all part of a secret plan to get you here today.
Well, it worked. It worked. So the first one and the main center thesis of this whole article is really centered on the first tenant, and it's about creating your own visibility.
Mhm.
I don't think people think of it in that sense. I think people, at least in agency, and this is me observing big agency life. I think people come to work and kind of like, expect to just kind of do their job and get into the rhythm and do some good work, and people are like passionate about that. But um, I I would encourage, if you're really serious, and if you're watching this, you probably are serious already. So good on you. But if you're really serious about pushing yourself and pushing your career forward, you really want to create visibility for yourself. And this is just something I've always told all the people I've ever managed. And it might that might sound difficult, but it's really not. And just to back up for half a second, we see if you go to Search Engine Land or you go to, Search Engine Journal, whatever your publications, you're going to see article after article on how to use the latest tool or AI or this strategy, this campaign setup. Google just did something here. Nobody's talking about how do you win your like professionally in this industry. Frankly, I think a lot of the tenets that I come up with are probably applicable to across a number of industries, but I really think what separates an A player from a B or C player is the non-technical things. Anything that I say today is something that anyone can do, and I think that's the brilliance of it. And when you realize that you can go so much farther just on your own tenacity,
Mhm.
I think that changes it. I know a thousand good media buyers, but I don't know 1,000 A players.
Yeah.
So what's the makeup of that? So again, creating visibility. How do you do that? First of all, it depends on your setting, of course, but let's just use an agency as an example because I think that's probably what most people will be in. But even on the client side, I think this is also applicable. You have to make sure that everything that you're doing is visible. Don't just like you make a good report, you do something that's really great for the client, you get a good call out, do something bad. Like you didn't do something well. Why did you do something well? Present that, share that out, explain it in detail, for better or for worse. We're all humans, and good stuff, bad stuff, it doesn't really matter. The point is how do you move forward, and how could you create this very like internally, potentially externally, public way of saying, hey, this is what I did, this is how I do it. Share with people, communicate, connect with people. I think media buyers in general, they're very focused on their own clients, right? Their own metrics. And maybe they have a great communication with the client, but what are you doing to broaden this up? How can you build yourself up, show people you are serious? So I think that creating visibility, and it's going to go into so many different routes here, but that is the core tenet. If you can create your own visibility, you will beat someone who isn't 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah. I guess part of the argument there as well is that people are very busy. Everyone in the agency is busy. And so whilst if you're new to the industry, new to an agency, it might feel like you don't need to speak up and showcase and provide, increase that visibility. Sometimes if you're doing a good job, like you don't really get a ton of attention. Like sometimes, people are so busy, managers are so busy. If you're doing a good job, you've got everything handled, they're elsewhere. They're solving problems. And so it is a bit of a game in terms of showcasing yourself, increasing that visibility. I guess just to get really specific, would your advice be things like chats or like booking time with people? Like, what does that actually look like? What do you actually do?
Yeah, there's so many ways to do this, and
Yeah.
it's so broad, and I love that. First and foremost, if you have some sort of internal system, let's say Slack or Teams, whatever, share things internally. Start there. Start really small. Share things with your team. Share things with your supervisor. Then share things to your department. Look at other people in cross departments. Who are the leaders in the other departments? Talk to them. Carve out 15 minutes. Buy them a coffee, and just I really want to know more about your job. How do you see me? How do you think our department could do better? It all starts with initiative.
Mm.
Initiate something, and you'll be really surprised what you get back.
What about the fear that might be there around, I don't want to look stupid, or showcase something that I think everybody already knows? Like, how do you get over that fear?
How did you get over that? Well, I can't tell you how to get over that, but I can tell you the risk versus reward. 95% of people are going to be fearful. Be the 5%. Raise your hand. What is the absolute worst that can happen? Do you think everyone in unison is going to be, oh, that's a silly question? No. Do you think the person you're asking to is going to be like, what a silly question? When's the last time that somebody asked you a question that maybe was easy to you that you were like, oh, this person doesn't happen as much as people think?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, that's number one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
What's next?
Great. So I think it goes really well into what we're discussing. It's over communication. So again, it's like typically everyone's like communicating, and you're right. You have to battle people's time and attention. And that's why creating visibility is so important. Because if you can even take out 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe 60 seconds, 30 seconds of somebody's time to be like, oh, wow, this person is going out of their way. We all know that we're busy, to share something that might be useful to someone else, especially if you're leadership. If you're good leadership, you're observing that and you're saying, that's interesting to me. Amongst all the chaos and battles everyone's fighting on a constant day-to-day in the agency world, here's someone who still wants to contribute to the greater good. I think one thing that maybe there's a difference in the way I think is, and it took time for me to get there, but most people that get into a pod, you've got your book of clients. You're only thinking about, how do I win with these clients? How do I win with my boss? And even in big agency, I slowly started to change my mentality until from how can I win with these clients, which is obviously baseline, to how can I improve this department? How can I improve my team? How can I improve the business? What can I do at my level to improve the business, right? So I think communicating that, being present, having one-on-ones, booking time with people that you wouldn't necessarily book time with. Most people in the agency world, as I've come to know, would be more than happy to let you bend their ear for 15, 20, 30 minutes. In fact, they probably would welcome it. I'd be very surprised if anyone said no to that, unless depending on what level they're at. But for the most part, got to over communicate. And it starts with your team, then it starts with your department, and then it starts to, your adjacent departments, and then potentially up to the business level.
Yep. It's almost like if in doubt, because again, I'm sure that doubt will be there of like, should I communicate this? If in doubt, default to communicate it. And I imagine your answer to this might be on the risk reward ratio again, but can you go too far? Can you communicate too much?
Wow. Well, yes. I mean, I'd hope that there's a baseline understanding of like, okay, let's keep this like of high impact as well. You have to know your audience too. I'm not saying, go tell, your department lead that your spend increased by 20% every day. Okay. Be thoughtful, be strategic. I think we talk a little bit more about that in a few other tenets, but you really, it is a chess game. You want to think through. Yes, you want to be over communicate, but you want to communicate thoughtful, impactful things.
Yep.
Not just everyday things that people expect. Be thoughtful about it. Make an impact. Does this, what I'm about to say, have any meaningful impact to anyone else besides me?
Yeah. And I just feel like a very good segue into the next one.
Yeah. Well, I think this one is my favorite by far. I think it's because there's whatever way I'm wired, it releases dopamine. Solve the hardest problems. Point blank. This is something that even in my own agency, I've seen it so many times. And I don't know where this comes from, or if it's just, again, maybe I'm wired differently. When people that I work with generally hit a tough problem, generally those people start to back up and kind of put their hands up and say, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I'm not patting myself on the back by any means. I never say that. I don't, because everything that we do in this industry is almost entirely solvable one way or another. We're digital marketers. Everything is piped into something else. You find this a lot with like someone, like an example might be a paid search specialist. It's a tracking issue. And, oh, well, we have to talk to the analytics team or the tracking team. Like, okay, I mean, sure, if that's how it works, sure. Oh, tracking team came back, said everything looks good. Well, now what? Now what are you supposed to do? If you can just go a little bit further, and I'm not saying do their job by any means, learn about Google Tag Manager, learn how to look at the source of a website, right? Test it yourself. Understand a little bit more about what you do. I think a lot of media buyers forget that there's about, 70 other things that you have to know. You have to be an expert in Excel or dashboarding, sometimes BigQuery, tracking,
Mhm.
creative. There's a lot to do here. And when people start to slow down and say, I'm not sure, I don't know, and they offer nothing else, opportunity right there. You got it. You have it. Especially with the emergence of ChatGPTs, Perplexities. You are immediately an expert in everything. Tell ChatGPT what's going on. I've already used this for my own self, like where I did hit a wall, but I didn't hit a wall. I just asked ChatGPT. I was like, okay, here's everything that I tried. Here's the context. Spits back out, and wouldn't you know, it fixed it for me. Real life use cases happened 2 weeks ago for a brand new client. Something that they've been dealing with for 3 years. I solved it in 3 hours.
Hmm.
So I think really, like, if I can't stress this enough, whatever department you're in, whatever your responsibilities are, if you start hearing people talk about problems they can't solve, take initiative. Even if you don't get there, even if you don't get it,
Mm.
you don't fix it, share that. Go back to the second tenet, over communicate. Hey, I'm taking on this problem. I'm talking to people that might know. I'm jumping on Reddit / our PPC. I'm asking questions. If you do that enough times, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to fail every time? What's the worst that could possibly happen? Someone says, wow, this person has initiative, tenacity. Wow, what a terrible thing to say about them.
Yeah.
I think these, again, it goes back, it's so simple, and you don't have to be the best media buyer. You don't have to know every little nook and cranny of the platform. But if you can do these things,
Mhm.
no question, you're going to accelerate your career tenfold.
I think the ChatGPT example is really interesting because even if your prompt is "help me solve this problem," actually, I don't think it even needs to be that. It's almost like, what are the 3 or 4 rabbit holes or things I need to look at? Because I think sometimes it's the starting point. If you have something you've seen in the account that you feel looks wrong, the first point of call is analytics team. You speak to them, they say nothing wrong. Then you're stuck. It's like, where do I go now? The AI and LLMs actually can break down like, okay, here, these are the 2 or 3 other ways you could look at this or things you could go down. So it's not that they've given you the answer, but they've given you the next thing to look at. I think that's what it's about. It's like, it's troubleshooting. Okay, so that team has said that. They're looking at this. That's clear. What's the thing we haven't looked at yet, which could also be influencing this? So it's almost like you don't have as much of an excuse these days to just default straight to I don't know. Like there's just so much more you can do before you get to that, which is exactly what you just said.
100%.
Yeah.
Just it's never been easier to solve problems
Mhm.
in our field, in my opinion. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, there's just a lot more problems.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Awesome. Next, I think is offer help at
Yes.
every level.
This one has to be runner up. Similar to what we were just talking about is whether depends on what your level is. I'm going to assume most people probably here are more mid to senior level
Mhm.
listening on this potentially, but it applies to every level, whether you're junior or you're senior or you're executive. The way I think is that as a practitioner, you should be offering help at every level. So you're in a department meeting and you're talking about, and your team lead's talking about a new pitch that they have to give to their executive, and they're going to be working until late night finishing it, right? They have to put together this comprehensive strategy. Even if you don't have any context of this client or you don't feel confident in it, pulling them aside after that meeting and just letting them know, hey, I would really love to help you on this.
Mm.
What, if anything, could I do to help you take a little bit of that load off of it, and I'd love to contribute? I would love to have my fingerprints on that, even if there's one or two. What can I do? I'll do keyword research. I'll look at Google Trends. What's the stuff that you probably are going to do that you know that I could do? Or give me one example and I'll follow that. I'll follow it exactly. And if I have any questions at all, I'll reach out to my team or I'll reach out to you directly. Nobody does that. And it just baffles me. It baffles me. If you want to be a savage, if you want to really be bright, if you really want to be, and I mean bright in terms of like glowing, that changes the way people will look at you, your peers, your leadership, your supervisor. When you're willing to get down, get your hands dirty, and go above and beyond the normal day to day, that's what's going to leapfrog you up.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, if you look at my history at Horizon Media, I was promoted fairly quickly from entry level all the way up to AD. And the part of that reason, and this was kind of just situational luck, but I didn't see it as luck. I saw it as an opportunity, was that there was a lot of the people who were my supervisors or hired to be my supervisors, they left. So there was a turnover multiple times, like 2 or 3 times. So I was jumped around to, oh, you have to, now you're reporting to this person, etc. Right? After the first one, I said, don't hire anybody. I'll do it. I'll do the job, like, or at least part of it for this time period. I can do this. I know what to do here. Now, can I communicate that to my clients? If I put me in a room with a bunch of CMOs, probably not. You might want to do that. But like for the most part, I think I can take 80% of the lift and I'm going to do this and I'll show you I can do it. And that was the case for me. Now, it didn't always go exactly the way that I wanted. Of course not. And, sometimes probably a little bit too much to chew. But the fact that I was willing to go in there, look at my VP right in the eyes and say, don't hire someone, I can do this, changes the perspective. And what does that do? Creates visibility.
Yep. I'm curious, when you said that, how much of that was you truly believing it versus you wanting to, play the game a little bit and try and fake it before you make it to a certain extent?
I am wildly confident in my abilities. But I also understand that I don't know everything and I can be a little overconfident at times. So I think I went in there with the understanding that I'm probably not fit for this completely, rightfully so, but nothing's going to stop me from trying. And I think if you have that confidence and that ability and you have this support system that you build, like, you're going to be able to network and talk to other people and just be like, there's nothing I'm unwilling to do to get this done. I think that that's just a very good trait to have. But to your point, I think overconfidence played in there a little bit, but I think that in many ways, I look for that. I look for that in my agency. I think let's look at the opposite, underconfidence. What does that get you? So I'm very much know what you want, go for what you want, even if you don't have all the answers. Nobody does. Take what you want.
Yep. I think that's such an important point around you're not going to have all the answers, and your confidence level in a situation is going to vary massively. Some people might not be as confident as you were, but the thing that is the same is just saying to yourself, I'm going to give this a go, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. I think that is something you can control. So even if you're not coming from a place of like super confidence, you can still be like, look, I'm just going to give this a shot, do everything I can. It doesn't work out, fine, but I'm going to do it scared and see how it goes.
Exactly. Doing it scared is a good way to put it. And to kind of round it out, it's like, generally speaking, what are you willing to do to win? And maybe I'm romanticizing this industry. Maybe I'm putting it up on a pedestal. I think it's an increasingly difficult industry to become really good at because of the speed at which things are moving. And I think, especially with AI, you really have to position yourself as a thought leader, and you have to be the most visible person in your department, because there might not be a big department very soon. So clip that.
We're going to get onto AI a bit more later, so we'll clip that and come back to it. Okay, great. Next we had networking, which, as someone who has moved to New York City, I have definitely felt the benefits of, and it's probably one of the things I love most about this place. So yeah, break that down for us.
Certainly, yeah. So you and I, somewhat similar alike. I didn't live in New York. You definitely didn't live in New York. Now, here we are. And I think we kind of came around the same time, roughly. I think I moved here, I want to say around 2013-ish.
I was slightly after you, 2021.
Okay, that's quite a bit after. Quite a bit after. Maybe that's when you got into it, though. When you got into Paid Search. Maybe that's what I'm...
Yeah, Paid Search 10, 15 years ago, yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's what I was getting wrong there. Yeah, so quick funny story on this. I worked in Connecticut. I worked at this client side, private financing for a rehab project, and 6-month review came up. 6 months. And going back to overconfidence, I, in all my wisdom, was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get an offer, and I'm going to leverage that offer for a higher salary at my current job in Connecticut. And I actually did that. I went to New York. I got an offer here at Horizon Media. I went to Boston. I also got an offer there on the same day. And pretty cool feeling to have 2 offers for 2 of the largest cities like in the world, plus on the East Coast. And I took this offer and I walked into my supervisor's, review, and she went through everything. You're exceptional. And by the way, this is where I got my first real start at Google Ads. They were like, hey, we have this Google Ads account, see what you can do with it. And immediately got hooked. So this is awesome. Increased their leads by 100%, stuff like that. Anyway, that little dopamine hit.
Yep.
Anyway, I walked in and we went through everything, and she was like, is there anything else that you'd like to add? And this is like, I don't know. I think I've just watched too many movies. I slid my offer over the table. And I said, well, I would like to tell you that I do have an offer elsewhere. And she said, she kind of scoffed, and she said, well, how much is it? And at the time, so I don't know if I should say it, but it doesn't really matter. So I was making $28,000 a year. Okay, 28, that's pretty good.
Yep.
In 2012 or whatever. This offer was for $45,000. And I said, well, looks like I'm worth $45,000. And I had my number was 37.5. It was somewhere in between the 28 and I said, if they give me 37.5, I'm going to stay. And if they don't if they give me a penny under that, I'm going to New York. I just committed all in, right? It's my mentality. I don't know what it is. I had my path. And she laughed. She said, there's no way we're giving you 45,000. And I walked out of there feeling really weird, because I was like, oh man, I thought they were going to say, yeah, no problem. They didn't. Came back a couple of meetings later. They came back and said, we can give you 32 or something like that. And I said, you sure that's all you can do? They said, yep. I shook their head and I said, fortunately, I'm not going to be able to take that. And I said, I'm going to New York. So I got in my car and went to New York. And in one day, I looked at 5, 6 different apartments, and I picked the worst possible one, the cheapest one, in Brooklyn, in East Williamsburg, which is a fancier way of saying not Williamsburg. At the time, I had to take the L train, and learned all about cockroaches and mice. That was incredible. But I ended up moving here, and from then on, I really didn't know anybody. I knew a few people, so it was like networking, and that wasn't apparent to me quite a bit, like from a professional standpoint. Early 20s, I'm just networking for all the things that you do in your 20s, right? You want to go out, hang out, have friends, right? Do things. But subsequently, a lot of those people uh, became very important people outside of the agency, right? So now 30, 36 now, I think. And uh, it became very clear to me once this really great guy, Adam Blake, who I referenced earlier, I say his name now, Adam Blake. He was the first one who brought up, hey, have you ever considered consulting? And he said, I do it, et cetera. Kind of gave me the roadmap, kind of gave me some networking stuff. And right then and there, I said, oh, okay, I can network for my own like personal career growth. Maybe that's very intuitive some people, but for me, it kind of wasn't at that age. I was just like, maybe distracted, wasn't necessarily like mature enough to see where it was going. And I said, I knew then that the more I network, the more friends I make, the larger my network will be over time. And one little pro tip here is, especially if you're in agency life, people often come and go. There's a lot of turnover, at least historically. I don't know about so much anymore. That might be shifting a bit. But historically, it was like a year and a half, and people were moving on to ladder hopping, right? Totally makes sense. I always sent messages or texts or called that person. If we had any sort of relationship whatsoever, I would always reach, hey, how are things going? What's going on? What are you guys doing over there? Love to know. Why don't I want to get a beer and catch up? And it wasn't just for my people I caught, really close friends. These were just people I interacted with and wanted to stay in contact with, because selfishly or not, the best talent in the agency goes on to client side. And I always knew that. And just at the same time I started consulting, I said, those people are going to put me way further down the road when the time comes, because we're going to, network and stay true. And for lack of a better, intent was, I just want to stay in tune with people that are also going places.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So I think the networking is going to be important. One sub thing, we might talk a little more about this later on, but network outside of your department too. That's way more important, in my opinion, than just networking within, especially now as we're getting consolidation of a lot of different channels and you're expected to know a lot more about a lot more. So talk to other people, talk to strategists, talk to TV buyers, talk to social departments, talk to, display, talk about programmatic, anyone, talk to them, learn about what they're doing. What's got them excited? What are the challenges they're facing? You'll be so surprised at what you pick up.
I don't think that you mentioned there that resonate with me the most. For someone who wasn't necessarily a super networker, I'm not saying I'm a super networker now, I'm better at it, but it's that curiosity about other people. I think if you can cultivate that and just be curious about people, then that helps you overcome some of the fears around networking. Just reaching out to people, wanting to know more, curious about who they are, what they do, check in with them. I think if you frame it as that versus networking, I think that's probably how I subconsciously have approached it, versus this idea of like, oh, I've got to talk to everyone in the room, I've got to talk to 100 people. It's then I guess it comes back to like the quality over the quantity as well.
100%. Yeah, definitely not shotgun approach here. I completely agree. And it is about connecting. And I think when I look back at what's so great about agency life is the ability to be in a room with all your peers in these, huge floors in New York City, especially New York City, right? There's something romantic about it, where you can just make genuine human connections, because ultimately a lot of people are transplants into New York City, right? Most people don't grow here. Everyone chose to be there at this time, and your paths are intersecting. There's natural connection in that. And I think if you can just bring that out and learn about them, learn about what makes them tick, both personally and professionally. I mean, that's humanism. That's just being a human, which I love. And I think I miss that part. I really miss that part. We do our best over Zoom because we're a fully remote agency. Wives, kids, houses, right? Makes it very difficult to get centralized. Although we do it sometimes. I would say, I hope that in my future at some point, I get back to an HQ and can really connect with individuals. We do our best to do that, but it's just not, doesn't make sense for our business right now.
Yep. Got it. Okay, 2 more left.
Okay, well, business importance. So I think we talked about this. This is intertwined with a few different things, but what you really want to do is, when you're thinking about creating visibility for yourself, whether it's a conversation, whether it's asking for help, think through what is most important to the business or the department in terms of actual revenue or impact. Many people don't think like that. They think about their job. They think the context of what they're supposed to do, what their clients should do. Totally reasonable. And we need that. This changes, again, the way that people perceive you when you start taking, how can you improve the department? How can you improve the business? And let me be clear on something. This isn't go to a happy hour and list off all the things that you want to do to improve to your boss after a couple drinks. That's not this. It's the opposite. It's something that you brought up earlier on. You really have to be thoughtful about how you want to structure and present business impact strategies. So, for instance, let's say, I'll take this example. Your paid search department, you're watching search evolve, and you're noticing that maybe your local service client, could maybe use Google Business Profile Optimization, right? So, unpaid. Typically, people don't even know about this in paid search, right? You don't even think of it. But you look at it and you're like, this plumber in Tallahassee just isn't showing up. We're getting the pays to show up, but they're not showing up anywhere organically. Okay. Go to boss. Hey, do we offer like a Google Business Profile Optimization? Is that part of SEO? Is that, all right, you go to SEO. No, we don't really do that. We kind of more focus on on-page, off-page SEO. Okay. VP. Hey, look, I did some research. I found a bunch of vendors that can help us optimize our Google Business Profiles. Is this something that you guys have considered? Have you considered that as an additional revenue channel? Has SEO? Are there problems with it? Can we do it in-house? Should we hire a vendor? Do you see any potential in that? What would you need from me in order to get like a little bit more information about this? So you take an observation and you bring it all the way through. Now, that's a very convenient example that they haven't done any of this before, right? And maybe it has, maybe they haven't. But even if you get only 50% the way through and you hit a roadblock because they've already done this, or they've evaluated it's not something that's worth it, you still brought it up. You still networked. You still created optics. You still created yourself visibility.
Yep.
And it's all coming from a positive standpoint. And you're not, the takeaway should be from leadership. Here's a person that's willing to think about the greater business impact rather than just the responsibilities that we've given them.
Yep. Makes total sense. And I feel that then forms nicely into the last one, which is take ownership.
I think it kind of sums up everything. Extreme ownership to me is getting as close to perfection as possible. When I think about every role and responsibility that I've ever had, it's, are my clients doing well? What is good for them? Like, are they thinking about their business right? Am I thinking about their business right? Is pacing right? Am I missing opportunities on campaigns? I mean, it goes so far. Is the reporting correct? When's the last time I did this? What can I do today that will have the most important impact to either the business or my client or my professional career? What are the most important things that I can do? If you can take extreme ownership of this, well, I think a lot of people might, speculation, but I think people get into this industry and kind of let things happen around them.
Mm.
What I'm trying to say is be the thing that makes things change. Right. And you can do that by taking ownership. I own this. It is my responsibility, for better or worse, that my clients are going to be happy as best I can possibly make them. Performance is going to be good. And if it isn't, I'm going to figure out a way to make it good. I'm going to be helpful to my team. I'm going to be helpful for my department. I'm going to be helpful for the business. Own all of that. And if you just do those things, if you go through these 7 tenets, if you can just do, even if you took 2 of them, take 2 of them, start practicing them over the next few months. I promise you, people will start to notice.
Yep. That was actually going to be another question for you. Do you have to do all 7, or can you focus on some? I'm trying to think of like the through line for a lot of this. I feel like some of it is ownership and accountability goes through all of this. It's curiosity. It's, being intentional, communication. I'm at risk of just listing off all the 7 again now, but yeah, I imagine there are times where it's going to be really difficult to focus on all 7. Like, we're all very busy, and sometimes it's going to be even difficult to know where to start with one. How do you approach that? How do you think about that? How do you break that down for somebody who's struggling when they look at all this advice and think, well, where do I start?
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't follow the 10 commandments. I don't think about those every single day, right? Just because it's a list doesn't mean you have to look at it every single day, right?
Mhm.
The point is recognize that these exist, recognize how they translate to you in your own world, your own realm, and look for opportunities here. That's the point, is like, you don't have to create all these necessarily, but look for them. Look for opportunities to create visibility. Central thesis here is just creating visibility.
Mm.
These are just examples of the way that you can do that in a productive way. This is a cut through. This is a playbook that would allow you to, if you were to focus on, do 1 a month if you want. Break it down to once a month. I'm going to do one thing this month that translates into business impact. I'm going to find one thing that I can do that's going to impact, or at least potentially impact, the business in a productive way, typically through a revenue standpoint, typically. Bite size. This isn't a do this or fail. These were all learned over long periods of time, and I'm still learning. So I wouldn't give your viewers like the advice to take all these and be perfect at it at all. I would say start with understanding at the very core basics to create your own visibility. Start there, and these opportunities will present themselves.
Yep. You talked a little bit about mentors earlier. How important are mentors when it comes to these?
I think mentorship is extremely important. I myself have been lacking on that recently. However, early on, I've connected with a few different individuals. Ray Chang is, I would say, one of my main mentors. Although, again, I've been a little distant, for lack of a better term, lately. But he has been. If there was somebody on the sidelines back when you would ask me if was there someone telling you, his name was resonating in my head as somebody who would say it without saying it. He's very good at that. He's very good at making you come to their own realization, which is an incredibly different skill set. One that I super admire. Very therapeutic.
Yeah.
I would say, regardless of your level, but I think early on, year 2, year 3, if you can find a mentor, and it doesn't have to be, someone that's like way far away, like removed from you. It doesn't have to be an executive. Somebody who has a few years on you that you respect, that you feel comfortable with, that probably can lay some insight, definitely reach out to them. I've talked to many people and I said, would you be interested in mentorship? Even people that I thought would have immediately said no to me did not say no to me. And furthermore, when we get to a certain level, that mentorship is sometimes comes with an expectation of financial compensation
Mhm.
in times. Not once has anyone ever asked me to pay for it. So, I mean, you'll find coaches, you'll find that. But in terms of real mentorship of people that you've networked with, I promise you, you will find an absurd amount of value, whether you just want to talk about your own career growth, what you want to do. Just have a sounding board of what is it that I want to do. I think that mentorship would be a really, really, really good thing for the majority of your listeners, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I've also felt the benefit of that. You mentioned Ray there. How did you meet Ray?
Through Adam Blake.
Okay.
Yeah, he introduced me. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it was. He basically it was like a game of telephone. I met Adam, and Adam introduced me to Ray, and then I met a few other folks, and I don't know. He just was a very warm, welcoming guy. I think he kind of saw like something in me. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth there, but I take action, and I think people who also take action recognize people who take action.
Mm.
Right? A players recognize A players, and I think we just got it. He just was very nurturing and very open, and just could listen and also guide me without telling me. And I think guiding without telling is an incredibly interesting skill set to have, because I think that's really difficult to do for most people. Most people just want to tell you what to do and expect that you should know. Like, that's easy for me. I'm guilty of it too. But because I've been exposed to that methodology, I try to ask the right questions for you to come to the right answer, whatever that is for you. Even if I have my own opinion, doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. A lot of people have been wrong about things I thought were right, etc. So,
And that's actually an interesting skill set generally. So when you talk about that skill set, I think of life coaches, therapists, having engaged with both those skill sets, and can totally appreciate how valuable it is for them to ask you questions and for you to arrive at it. I think that's such a useful skill to develop, even just in agency life. Like, I'm thinking of sales. Like, how useful is it to ask questions and understand something to a greater level than to just straight to, here's the answer. So I think that skill set to develop is really, really, really important.
I agree. Plus, any agency co-founder is a salesman.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
I'm not a salesman, you have to be. If you want to be any sort of entrepreneur, regardless of your industry, it's a sales tactic. But really, it goes back to the human aspect too. It's like communicate, ask questions, like be thoughtful, be curious, and at the end of the day, I mean, advice is really hard to take. I think most people would agree that when you come to it on your own, when it feels organic, kind of like Inception, that movie Inception, it has a more profound effect, and you make that when you feeling that you made a determination keeps you in the driver's seat.
Yep. Yep. That feels like a good place to end that section, which is really good. Really enjoyed that. With the time we have left, I do want to pivot to AI. There's a lot going on in the industry. We've talked about a little bit of that over the last hour. I guess what I want to start with is, what are you most excited about right now?
Sure. Yeah. I am most excited about the possibilities. As somebody who takes on the hardest problems, AI unlocks everything for me. I have a room full of experts on any subject that I want. And as you stated earlier, they can help troubleshoot, they can help strategize, they can do anything that I want very quickly and easily. I think in our industry, I think AIs can be a bad word, especially for some of us elder PPCers. I think that um, I'm straying from the question a little bit, but I think it's relevant. What I want since I have the microphone, I really want to like hammer this point. Don't be afraid of AI, but you have to know how to use it. The way I kind of thought of it on the train here is every single person in the agency just got handed a sword, but nobody knows how to use it. Some of those people are going to get really good with having that sword. And just because you have a sword doesn't make you good. Right. So, what I'm trying to really urge individuals to do is get really good with that sword, understand it, understand its limitations. And those limitations are going to change and evolve and be fluid. You can see the improvements in the AI methodology on a almost a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting completely different. The only way I see the current the current structure continuing to a certain degree is you have to be an operator and you have to oil the machine that's going to be doing a lot of the work that you used to do. And we can go in further on that, but I really think that I don't want the takeaway is do not be afraid of it. It is coming for part of your job. That's okay. Not all of it. Know which parts it's not. Double down on that and then learn very quickly how to get the results and get the productivity out of AI as quickly as possible.
And that's a really good way of putting it. Use it, understand limitations, and then the areas where it's not as good, double down on that, and that's your value add as a human.
Right.
And that's a great way of putting it. How are you doing that within your agency? So to be more specific, it feels like everybody's been given a sword, like literally everybody, from you as the founder right through to someone who is the first week. How do you enable everybody in the agency to use it in the different ways that they're going to interact and use it based on the role they have in the agency?
Sure. I can only speak for my team, so I can't speak for how everyone's deploying it. I find a lot of inconsistencies in our department, so I'm trying to solve for that. Meaning, I'll take the lead in developing the process or the tool. So a lot of times, what we do is instead of having someone go to ChatGPT and prompt every single time, what we're trying to do is saying, okay, what are the most common things that you do, and then we're going to build a tool that does that thing, so that you don't have to go there every single time, and we can do a lot of this automatically. Broader is we are very much investing into what I've kind of called a neural network of agents. So what I think is what we're going to do to try to hedge against AI is lean into it and do all the things that build agents that have the context of each client and do a very specific task. So you have a centralized brain for that particular client with all the context, with all that memory. And then underneath all those, you've got ad copy, keyword, landing page, SEO, content, all doing a specific function. Now it gets really fancy when all those talk to each other and they can all align on the same thing. Not there yet, at least not us. I know other people are further down the road on that. So for us, I think we are really investing on that side of things because, I mean, the truth is, and this shouldn't be a shock for anyone, building a campaign structure with keywords and match types in Excel, as we probably have done many times, isn't going to be there in a year or two from now. At least not for the ones that are going to lead into this.
Mm-hmm.
There'll always be the people who don't want to change.
Yep. Bit of a bombshell, but I think at risk of going into like an even bigger topic, and I'd love to sit down and definitely go into some of what you just said and sort of understand how you guys are doing it. But this is really fun. Really appreciate you coming on. So thank you, Aric.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.